There you go. It's important to highlight the last one, the last topic you brought up. Regardless of the result at the end of the day, it's more about the long term. So it means that Astralis are looking to develop these players, develop this team above all. And they did look good at the beginning of the game. Now, before we talk about the second game, I need to highlight a couple of things. To begin with, there's a poll on the chat. Tell us, who do you think is going to win, Astralis or Riddle? You love this. You really love to see the chat just diverging between themselves. This is cool.
Yeah. Now we haven't seen what they voted in the first game. That's obviously a clear one. But for me, I think even after the first game, we could see it be very much 60-40 to either team because Astralis showed a near-perfect early game, but faltered in the mid-late game. Riddle played a very bad early game. They got completely outplayed, but in the mid-late game, they played the better team fight. So I think both teams have good reason to go into the second game and say, we can win this game. And that's what I think the viewer should be left with too.
Astralis also picked the blue side for the second game. Merbs, usually you pick the red side if you want to save your top laner, but this seems like they're giving away. Carlson can play the weak side. We are now worried about Jack's Plank, regardless if he got a pentakill or not.
Yeah, I think you should be worried about him, and but I think they go back to the same because they actually played very good in the early, and I think they just know what their mistake was now, and they're gonna change it.
Okay, how do you fix this mistake then, Merbs?
I think they just need to play a more smooth game, better transactions from lanes, and not get caught, and slow down the pace of the game.
Maybe take the Seraphine out. Maybe that's one to take into consideration. Let's change the lane we're talking about on the previous game. We highlighted the top side. I want to highlight the mid lane right now. We're talking about two players, Syncox and Vladi, that brings a lot into the table. There's a lot of differences. Can you highlight them for me?
Well, the main highlight is obviously that Syncox is one of the main carries on the side of Astralis, where Vladi is playing a bit more of a weak side role, knowing that he doesn't get the same resources that a normal mid laner would do. So he's there to try and survive the early game, survive the mid game, and then be good in those team fights. We saw it just like last game as well. He didn't really do much in the early game, but once he got a couple of items on his Yone, he was very strong and he showed his individual skill in the late game team fights.
And it's a young mid laner as well. We highlight Carlson a lot because he's a young top laner, but 16.
16. That's younger than me.
Imagine, see?
Crazy.
Even than me. That's surprising as well. Now, the meme, you guys don't know the meme, so I won't dive into that one. Looking into this second game, Merbs, Riddle got this one, but do you think they're comfortable after the beating they got at the beginning of the first game? And do you think they have to also adapt something?
I don't think they will adapt as much. I think they were pretty happy, or they were not happy with the early game, obviously, but I think they now know what Astralis is going to bring, so I think they're more confident moving into the second game that they're actually going to be able to stop it much easier.
What about you? What do you think is going to happen on this game before we go into Champion Select?
I think Astralis are going to deny some of the easy scaling tools like the Seraphine, and then they themselves hopefully get something that can play in the early game, but also better in the late game, because the jungle pool was so banned that Tex had to go on the Listen, which works great in the early game, but kind of disappears in the late game team fight. So a jungler that has more to offer also in the late game, but in the early game would be preferred for me. Depends on how the pool is banned, though, in terms of the junglers.
Okay, let's know what the chat believes is going to happen on the second game. Let's show the poll for you guys. We start at 0. Oh my God. 79 for Riddle, only 21 for the Stars.
Don't give me that look, Murph. So he looks at me like, yeah, I knew that they were reasonable people. But it's again, I think Riddle, obviously they ended up winning the first game, but we have to remember those first 15, 20 minutes were very, very good from Astralis, and if they can build on that into the later games of the series, it's gonna be them at the very least taking a win in my eyes. But if Riddle also fix some things in the early game, as I said, this series can go very back and forth. I think it should be a 50-50 in the votes, all honesty.
You think it should be a 50-50 for the second game?
Maybe 60-40 to Riddle.
Okay, so you're now giving plus 10% for them.
Yes, I honestly think that is fair, considering how good that early game from Astralis talent was.
Now we need to highlight something that we were talking about, the green room. I'll be honest, as soon as I saw Astralis winning like that, I was like, if Astralis wins this game on a perfect game, it should be a 3-0. Yeah. Mentality-wise, Riddle are going to be affected. Let's flip the coin, because Riddle beat up Astralis after Astralis had the perfect early game, mid game, and they got a pentakill. how affected would you be as a player when you knew you had everything, it just slipped from your grasp?
I think that's something Vendetto is going to be able to prevent from happening, that they're actually going to stay focused and not bury themselves down from this game. I think they had a really good opening, and I think they should be happy with it.
Okay, I know you want to talk because every single time we bring the names of the name of the coach, your smile lifts up. So, final words before we jump into
the main thing I want to say is both Vendetto and Texa have experience being down in the NLC final 2-0. They won that 3-2. They know what it's like being behind in a series, and they know what they need to do to come back. So that's why I have faith in them. So at the very least, get a game in this best of 5.
I'm so proud of our little wiki over there, Duckling. Mervs, we're going to start the Champion Select, so it's your honors. You have to be like, you have to really press it, okay?
Really hard?
Really hard. Mervs, not again!
Mervs,
come on!
Come on! Ah, okay.
Okay, we got it. Let's jump into the second game of the day for the playoffs, Astralis versus Riddle. Let's see if Seraphine is going to be removed. Viking, we got Mervs. Let's see then. Yumi, the same man as before. The Astralis is going to take on the blue side yet again. Renata on the other side. Seraphine should be a must. Nar should be a must. But we're now giving a lot of names. There's a lot of champions.
And the Seraphine boys. It was too busted. You couldn't deal with it. Come on. These bans make sense. I thought all the 3 bans last game made sense as well. But we saw the Seraphine, man. Please. Remove it.
It's going to be the Talia, so Riddle are not willing to play versus that again. It's understandable, which means Astralis has to ban the Seraphine, because if you don't, either you first pick it and you give something important to the other side, or you risk going against those shields and heals. And it's kind of hard building the Serpent's Fang on someone.
I'm not sure if Chrisberg plays Seraphine anything, or even Kiba. I think that's something they could actually go for the first pick here.
Zeri, final ban for Astralis. Riddle takes the Seraphine away. Riddle takes...
Thank you! That is a gift, because that means the Wukong that they banned last time around is now open, something who, yes, has been nerfed in the early game, but can still unlock the early game and has more of a presence in the late game.
Arsha hurts himself in its confusion. That's all I can say right now on that ban. As we get to see the monkey. The monkey is back, so Wukong has been picked by Taxi.
Oi! Oh, that's obviously a puppy.
She was banned on the previous game.
Yeah.
And you already have someone that wants to engage and is not allowed with the steadfast presence. So this could be a really cool key for Riddle. The first one is locked in. What can we see to complement this jungle?
I think they're just going to blind on ADC here, maybe. Yeah. I think they show the least amount of things done.
Okay. The Jinx is back. Jinx is back in the table. We know Kevo is good at that one as well. But now you can try and counter something on the bot side. What could be the counter for the Jinx?
More specifically, this just shows the versatility of Kevo, right? We just saw him from a Seraphine game. Now he's the late game scaling AD carry, and he is good at that. But if there's someone who I have a synonym with as a good late game carry in this league, it's probably Chrisberg. And between these hubs here, the Aphelios obviously being open and the rework Siva being open, 2 very strong late game carries, they choose to say, look, let's just secure a good matchup for Karlsnor, someone we know he's comfortable on in the Gwen. So this is very exciting because that's not the typical weak side there.
Might I say that you picked the Gwen, but there's someone called Jax Plank. The Plank is open.
Yeah.
So it's still not the 12-15, by the way. So GP is still kind of powerful.
It's hard. Hurts.
Hard to deal with. So that could be the one. Jax as well is open.
It's instantly locked in. Insta-lock, actually.
It's also a way to deal with the Gwen. I see your eyes, Merbs. I see a little bit of concern hidden over there. What are you feeling right now on this Champion Select?
I'm just liking what Riddle has brought. I think the Poppy being one of the strongest picks at the moment, and also the Jax into Gwen being a very big comfort for Jax Plank is something that worries me.
And they picked another champion that dashes. Gwen can be immune, but she dashes, and Poppy exists. Kind of concerned to the top side, by the way. I'm just saying that. Duckling, second phase on bans.
Yeah, so the second defensive bans, obviously for Riddle, they're going to try and trim out the support pool because we know what Keeper can do if he gets on a roaming support, so the Nautilus makes sense to remove that. On the other side, the mid lane, try and trim out that pool from Vladdy. Ari is someone who's very meta in the moment, so that has been removed. The Silas has already been removed, so it's very much how much do you want to remove from the mid lane pool, considering you yourself haven't locked in a mid lane, so you have to leave something open that you want to play, but that you think your opponent won't be too satisfied playing.
Karma is going to be removed as well. It's mostly about the mid laner now for Astralis. They want to take some power away from Vladdy. We still haven't seen any sort of a lock-in for Syncux. So that Ahri actually falls into Syncux champion pool as well. I'm trying to look. Silas is removed as well. LeBlanc was played once by Syncux, and Trouble was the one saying he was a monster to deal with. She said a lot of oh mommy as he was playing. Yeah, that was exactly the sentence. Oh mommy.
I mean, it goes back to his history, right? He's known in Europe and the whole world for his LeBlanc. It is famous. He has multiple highlights on it. You can go on YouTube and find highlight compilations of his LeBlanc. So obviously, with how the pool's been trimmed so far, and if they lock in that Azir, I would actually be pretty happy to see the LeBlanc. It's something we know Syncux is comfortable on. So I think the LeBlanc would be a pretty good choice in my opinion.
Let's see what they're going to pick. They could fall into the support and reveal a little bit more of the champion select. They have to do those 2 picks in a row, so at least they can have some time to think about the mid laner. But it's going to be a different approach coming in from Syncux with Lissandra.
I like the Lissandra. Or
yeah, explain to me
I'm
why.
not exactly sure how the early mid prio is, but I think
that's a pike.
It's locked in.
Yeah.
You think he could roam and try to? Yeah, it's Kiba.
Yeah, I think that's something they have to do. I think they're not going to get early prio against Jinx, I think, in the lane, so he's just going to leave without prio and hope for some snowballing.
I want to say it, when I see Astralis and Pyke as a support, I'm afraid.
I really like that. I really like that because you're going to take Keeper, you're going to take Syncux, you're going to push out the mid lane, then these two alongside Texa are going to go to either the top lane or the bot lane, and then they're going to rain hell on whichever lane they go in. And the good thing about the Gwen is, while it might be a hard matchup, Gwen is very strong in the late game, so something that they lacked last time was late game damage. They have that now with the Gwen if we go that far again.
Final predictions for you guys, the boys. I want to know who's going to take this one. You said Riddle in the previous one, Mervs. You are 100% correct. Duckling is not 100% correct. It's the opposite. Who do you think is going to take it?
I think Astralis played such a good early game last time, so I think they're going to take this one with the mid support roaming to top.
Interesting.
I was honestly going to go Riddle until I saw the last 2 picks. I think that Lissandra and Pyke have so much potential that if Syncux and company do just something in the early game, they are going to have enough momentum to steamroll the late game as well with more late game damage. So I'm going Astralis again, even though I think Riddle also have a good chance.
Riddle got the first game with the first pentakill of the entire split, but it seems Kiba is bringing some help from Younghun from LEC with the Pyke pick. Let's see if this is enough as we toss it to the casters, initialize, and Trouble Link. Oh, mummy.
I hate to tell you, Duckling, which lane they'll be raining hell on, but I can pretty much guarantee Astralis will be trying to do it mid lane, because it's what they do every game. And they've got a Lissandra, a Pyke, and a Wukong to try and make sure with the invisible gankers that Vladdy has an awful time on that Azir.
Yeah, and honestly, man, I can't wait to see this Pyke because they mentioned it as well on the desk. Younghun, the LEC support for Astralis, is playing Pyke. Kiba bringing it in. If I'm not wrong, it's his first one this season as well, bringing in the Pyke as we're going into game 2 of this best of 5 series between Riddle and Astralis. You lose this best of, you are out of the NLC for this season. You can no longer contest for that last EU Masters ticket. And honestly, with how close that first game was that we watched, with how proactive Astralis was in the early game, now seeing the Lissandra, seeing the Wukong, seeing the Pyke, like a much easier make plays. It's actually really interesting to see how Stefan is going to keep up with a bunch of the ganks that are going to be coming through from Kiba and Taxa.
And there's nothing like a cleanse here for Vladdy either into this Lissandra, so the moment the level 6 comes through, you can imagine exactly how much pressure Vladdy's Azir will be under. They have so many ways to try and get this game snowballing, and Astralis did a phenomenal job in the last game of making that happen. One man, though, made things very difficult as the game went on. He got the pentakill to end it out, and Jax Plank on his literal namesake right now. One of them looking to try and continue Riddle's winning ways.
Jax to his Plank, of course. One of his two main champions locked in here into a pretty good matchup.
Yeah.
Jax is pretty good into the Gwen. Although right now we do see that Carlsen has got the Ignite, so that might be a very early game issue that Jax Plank might have to deal with. But as you can see on your screen right now, this guy averages almost 10 CS per minute, 9.3 per minute. His kill share is pretty high. A fourth of his team's kills go to his name. But his damage per minute, compared to how much gold he usually gets in a game, is pretty low, considering kill share and CS per minute. Now, why could that be? Well, our guess is he doesn't necessarily see too many champions.
No, people see him and they go, I don't want to fight you.
Or too many champions don't want to see him, and they don't go to his lane. So Jax Plank, a big pivotal part of Riddle's plan overall. Again, as you can see, the four-man core duo, very undiveable. The Azir, the Rakan, make it really difficult for these four members to actually die to even a five-man approach by Astralis. And again, same approach from Riddle, side lane pressure into a strong four-man team fighting team. Astralis, though, have changed it up a little bit now.
They have.
Carlsen on a more scaling pick towards that late game, and Crispec again onto that hyper AD carry on the likes of Severe. I like this much more because you've got the proactivity coming in from the Lissandra and from the Pyke, but you don't necessarily have to rely on that early game to go full 100% your way.
I do want to bring this up as well, as we were both a little bit concerned by Astralis first picking the Wukong while leaving the Poppy open. Wukong's fallen out of priority a little bit, especially when Poppy has been available, and a lot of room for this Poppy to cause some havoc, and a bit of questions about why Taxa didn't pick up the champion here.
I think that when Taxa feels really comfortable on particular types of champions, he tends to stick to them. So I feel like for the Astralis jungler, it's more about comfort than it is getting that S++ tier pick for himself. Talking about S++ tier pick, sorry. They're looking for a pick towards the top side of the map. Jax Plank is going to see that coming, but now Carlsen has his chance of freezing that wave very close to his tower. What that will do is that will allow Jax Plank to overextend, to try and either shove it in or try to pick a fight, which means that if Taxa is on the whereabouts, Jax Plank could see himself going down.
Absolutely. The lane was pushed in, helped get his Poppy a little bit more priority to work with to secure that Skull Crab, which she did. Riddle trying to play this one out best they can. Both top laners teleport back in with a longsword and an amp tone, respectively. Bone Skewer lands onto Nash. They're going to try and turn this one around with the grand entrance, but of course this is a Pyke who can just dive underwater and heal himself back up.
Now, talking about Poppy and how she likes to disrupt a lot of champions that dash and make plays, Pyke is one of them. Pyke likes to be doing a lot of dashing around. Wukong likes to do the same. You've got a few dashes coming in from Carlsen as well. But talking about dashes and, of course, mid lane, with the Lissandra, Seneca with a very early roam towards the bot side of the map. They're trying to figure out where Stefan is, because you mentioned how if Poppy does manage to counter-gank, it becomes really difficult for Wukong to go in due to the Poppy W. So making sure you keep track of where that Poppy is in the early game allows Taxa a little bit more freedom as to what he wants to play towards. Talking about what you want to play towards, Kiba is already on his way towards the top of the map. He's literally running it down from top lane.
And of course, Riddle will be well aware their early game last game was
not
great.
They've already pinged bot side. Guys,
he's gone.
He's missing.
Where is he? Is he mid lane? And interestingly, Keeper's actually ended up top side as Jax Plank has hopped in with that ward briefly disabled. Keeper's just going to help Carlsen shove in, and Jax Plank backing away wisely from this 2v1. He will not win this one, I suspect. Keeper with the Ghost Water Dive out of vision for now.
I think what a lot of teams have realized, it's not necessarily too important to kill your opponent, but shoving them away from their lane and depriving them off of early gold and experience is so important to try and put your laner ahead. Right now, as you can see, Carlsen is sitting very comfortably at 10 CS up, and yes, there's a bunch of minions underneath Jax Plank's tower, but a bunch of them were actually missed. Very nice charge there on Stefan onto the race to actually hide behind and not get hooked by Kiba. But yet another four-man going towards the top side of the map for Astralis.
And there's a level 6 on Senkux, which means that Glacial... Frozen Tomb, I apologize. Glacial Path, Frozen Tomb. I always get those two confused. Lots of icy things.
What is the Glacial Prison?
Glacial Prison is Sejuani ult.
Hey, well, they do the same thing.
So Frozen Tomb, Glacial Prison, Glacial Path.
One of them is easier to hit, though, because it's point and click.
basically, you could say one of them, and people will kind of get the idea of what they are.
Lissandra is the easiest Setsuani, because it's point and click.
I guess, you know what? I've not done a lot of thinking on that one. I asked Jankos, would Jankos agree?
It's the same old, they're both glacial. If you ask like Smithy, he would definitely agree that Lissandra is the easiest Setsuani.
Did you really have to do it, man? Literally after we just got on, there was a wonderful article written by the likes of people we're not going to have time to talk about because Keeper, for a very aggressive little play there towards, surprise, surprise, the mid lane, this guy has just not spent any time in bot lane at all.
Real quickly though, that will send Vladdy back to his tower. As you can see, Senkax is actually running the Ignite right now due to the fact that he has Spellbook, so he can swap his summoners around. The fact that you are constantly trying to force an Azir off of the lane or actually force him to E away from a lane or away from a gank means that a lot of that mana is actually being burned, which means you can't stay in lane, which means you need to back. Well, that amount of time that you've actually backed in your fountain, the opponent team gets more members on the map, therefore more time to get more aggressive vision, find the opponent jungler and even go for a play. At this point, it was just Astralis putting in a little bit further vision inside Stefan's jungle, because again, they have been keeping very good track of where this Poppy is to try and make plays on the opposite side of the map.
Indeed, and Astralis have got the tools here to basically pile on one person and absolutely murder them. Jax, Blank, and Vladdy, no cleanses to their name, and of course that is an immobile Jinx with Tom Kent would like to save her. So definitely worlds where Astralis can do exactly what I'm saying. And keeping track of where Taxa and Kiba are on the map must be a paramount concern.
Dun, 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 dun. He's on his way to top lane yet again. Every time he's backed and he's on a reset, he's literally sprinting towards the top side of the map, putting Jaxplan behind, making sure that Carson gets ahead. Now he's going to spot him on the side as well. Carson is level 6, but he literally has a ginormous double wave underneath his tower that he cannot afford to ignore. Therefore, Kiba's roam, for now, is going to be slowed down by a control wall that went down into this bush. But as you can see, also Stefan on the top side of the map. 2 members, though, through River.
Misses. Nice attempt there from Kiba, another lane gank this time around. But all the while, Astralis have used this opportunity to start up the Herald. Riddle aren't coming over and thinking about contesting this one.
Very importantly, both supports level 5. None of them has their crucial ultimates to fight this, but Stefan has a very potent ult. You can knock someone away, make it a numbers advantage for your team.
Keeper's verdict goes wide, and so Senkax now has an opportunity to come and get on top of the Poppy, who's utterly deleted. First blood goes away for Astralis to turn around with the Super Mega Death Rocket, not going to get that much down as Chrisberg has some ricochets flying, and they are bouncing through the Azir, but not quite secured. A little bit of family violence there as Sivir has a go at her ancestor.
Yeah, and look at Kiba right there. He's ready to dive through that wall, try to have a go at Kevo, see if he can catch him. It's not going to be the case. They're just going to shove in that wave. But look at that. There's 2 carries of Riddle stuck underneath one tower, soaking up the same experience and gold from that one wave. On the other side, Astralis, they managed to get the kill. You said it. They've got so much gold power with the Lissandra and the Wukong that whoever gets caught in the glacial tomb, there you go.
Frozen tomb. No.
Frozen tomb.
Fiddlesticks is the term you're looking for.
Fair enough. Whoever gets caught in Lissandra ultimate, there you go. Now I can't mess it up.
The ultimate that Lissandra has.
Yeah, ends up being deleted. And since it was Stefan, no smite means Astralis have secured themselves a Rift Herald. Now, where are they going to choose to put that Rift Herald towards? Because, again, in my opinion, not a lot of teams have managed to put Jaxplank down. Because we saw in the previous game, they put that Rift Herald towards the top side of the map. What does that do? That gives the possibility for Jaxplank to freeze his wave underneath tier 2 and never allow Carlson to overextend to try and shove in and crush that wave, which means that Jaxplank can continuously catching up in CS, in gold, in levels and everything. I'd say, if anything, try to break that mid lane. The fact that Vlad is on an Azir, it's a never scaling, ever wave clearing champion, really difficult to get him out of the picture to shove in his lane, right? So either give it towards Chrisberg down bot, get that severe rolling, or just open up mid lane for vision.
Well, you asked for it, and it looks like Astralis is certainly thinking about it. Kiba and Taxa were just having a look into that mid lane. They'll
the top lane
take the opportunity to say, well, maybe not the mid lane, but Jaxplank was a real problem last game. Let's try and put him even further behind this time, and Jaxplank saying, I just cannot walk.
Guys, don't do it. Don't spawn the Herald.
It's going to be a 4v1. Stefan's coming over, the teleport coming through. Frozen Tomb is down. The massive turnaround with the counter strike, the Vice in space. There's still going to be a death from below, though. X marks the spot. Turnaround's pretty good, though. It's Tax's clone. Takes a lot of damage. Mega Death Rocket just goes wide. It is a 1-for-1. But critically, Taxa with the Herald dies.
Yeah, and for a 4 versus 3, the fact that Riddle managed to come up 1 versus 1, they're catching the wave, they're not losing anything else on the other side of the map. If anything, they're depriving Chrisberg off of an entire wave. So if anything, I feel like Riddle lost from display. The top wave got pushed, bot lane's getting played, they have a Jinx, he scales into the late game, he just got 2 star platings as well, and if we see this dive again, I think Astralis need to call it off the second the teleport comes through. As you will see, Senkax goes in, but Jackson has already popped the ultimate, and he's jumped into his wave, which means whoever is following him is taking tower. So if that someone is Senkax, and the second he has to flash out and get out of dodge, Taxa gets trapped between an Azir and a tower, which end up in Taxa's death. 1-for-1 on the 4 versus 3 underneath the tower. Riddle take those.
Jax Plank takes the opportunity to hold on to the mid lane, because of course Vladdy teleported towards the top side to help turn around that dive, or at least even it out. Still, he's now back, and at some point those laners will switch around again. Kevo gets hooked, takes a lot of damage, but the quickness comes through, doing what they can to turn this one around. So much damage on the Chris, but he's got to heal. It's going to be so damn close. Gets the kill, Kevo. Nice to run away, use the minions for cover best he can. The Bone Skewer, big charge. Flash for the autos, though, secure it for Kiba. Makes that a 1-for-1, both AD carries fall.
I don't think that's also not worth it for Astralis right here, because Kiba did not get the kill through the ultimate, which means no money went over to Chrisberg, whilst on the other side, Kevo is the recipient of the kill, so another 300 gold for the Jinx. Top lane has fallen now. I would like for our observers, every now and then, haha, it wasn't the goal this time, I baited everyone. I would like for our observers...
Don't piss off the observers, they will haunt you for that.
Okay, I would like for our observers to just, in general, keep an eye on that top lane wave and where Jackson chooses to keep it every single time, right? It's very important that every time the top tier 1 falls for the top lane, that top lane needs to constantly overextend with their tower very far behind them. So there is a chance you could get punished by a roam, by a jungler, by a support coming towards the top side of the map. Now, of course, Jackson is going to choose to crush completely that wave and push it towards Carlsen, but we will keep our eyes on where that wave stays in the top of the map, because Jackson managed to get ahead and even almost flame Horizon Carlsen when Carlsen had the exact same start in game 1.
It's not as explosive as it was last game. The Astralis have got themselves to a healthy early game lead. Question is whether they can do more with it in the mid game, where honestly they stalled very heavily. And plays like this, where Kiba walks straight into a Poppy and knocked away, is not where you want to start. So Megadeth Rocket goes wide, but a Rocket will still claim his life nonetheless. A shutdown going the way of Kevo, of all people.
Very well played for Riddle. They have been playing for picks right now. They're punishing any overextension coming in from Astralis. And at this point, both teams can actually play it pretty slowly. You've got plenty of scaling from both sides. It's just how the front to back actually works for your team. And I'd say when you've got a Rakan over a Pyke, your late game front to back team fights might look a little bit easier. You've got more of an easy engage coming in with the Rakan. You've got more of an easier peeling time, again with the same champion. You've got the Azir coming in. So much protection around Kevo's Jinx, who, if we remember, had a pretty good time in that Nuriki game. But when Riddle stopped playing the front to back and left him all alone, there was nothing he can do. So if Astralis can manage to break apart that front to back, that 5-man unit that Riddle want to have in the team fights, they could potentially punish Kevo's Jinx, who's now actually pretty fed with the Kraken Slayer.
Has gone forwards and Stefan is here. Stun onto the Gwen, who's not into the wall. That could be problematic as Kiba's coming down. Nash hops forward with a battle dance, looking for a grand entrance. On the other side is Kiba. Will not go forwards with the Bone Skewer. So it'll just be some health bars traded, not too much more.
Do you know how there's like a silver alert every time somebody is missing?
Yes.
In general, they put it on the TV, they have like a bunch of posters on the streets to try and find the missing person or animal or whatever it is. If anyone ever loses Astralis, I'm gonna tell you right now, they're gonna be towards the top side of the map.
Well, last scene, like missing from high security bot lane prison. Kiba on Pyke. He's armed and dangerous.
They're gonna be top lane, boys, don't worry. We haven't lost them, we know exactly where they are. Now, of course, second Dragon's gonna go uncontested to Astralis, dead, almost gold even Astralis with 1k difference, but most of that diff is gonna be sitting towards the top side of the map. A lot of tower platings, the entire tower went to the likes of Carlsen onto this Gwen. This time, though, getting all this gold, all this money, all these resources into his champion, Gwen can obviously hard carry a late game much easier than a Gragas can. So making sure that this Gwen accelerates a little bit into the game is very important. Talking about accelerating.
Go straight in. There's the glacial path into the frozen tomb. And once again, Stefan is eviscerated. Second held secure. Vladdy has to shift his way out of the pit. And Astralis pounce.
I think Stefan had to use his smite there for HP to try and stay alive, and a little bit of a weird interaction. I feel like Riddle thought they could take it under Astralis' nose because Jaxplan was all the way back in base, Kev was down the bot lane, so you literally only have 3 members, and we said it, if you lose Astralis, they're gonna be top side of the map. 4-member stack from the side of Astralis right there, ended up capitalizing and punishing, and Senkax again has been the recipient of a lot of the kills in the early game. I found his league a little bit lackluster in the mid-game out of anything for the previous one, for game 1. Right now with Alexander, he has all the tools to, again, create plays, create opportunities, find these picks with the big ults.
We've got a moment here. Maybe we'll check in with some of those tweets. Again, another hashtag NLC Pets. Here's a sunny sausage. Oh, thank you, Dashy Dash. What a cute little pupper.
Oh my God. Cute sausage.
Remember, guys, throw that hashtag on Twitter. Get yourself on the stream. It's playoffs. Lots of people could come and join in the joy that your pets bring to you. And then for the rest of us, hopefully. As this game, just a little bit slower than perhaps the last one, considering the last one was absolutely rapid for a good 20 minutes. But now potential turnaround here for Jax. But trying to transform very, very closely. Oh, my days flash away. But Carlson escapes, and Senkux here, and Jax Blank is out of options. Leap striking forwards. Glacial Path comes down. Looking for a final auto as Kiba is here as well. Looking for a death from below. Not even going to need it as an Ice Shard claims the life of the Grandmaster.
I'd say for a Gwen that has a completed Riftmaker that was fully stacked in this fight, with Ignite, but wasn't used in this fight because it wasn't a cooldown, versus Jax that is a whole level down. That was heck of a close fight. Almost going the side of Jax Blank now. They're going to use the second Rift Herald. Again, there was a top lane. I just want to reiterate how much Kevo has gotten on the both side of the map. The entire first tower with all the tower platings went down. Now he is beating up that second tower as well, and Vladdy might be in trouble because Kiba's in the mid lane.
Ghostwater Dive will not hit the Bone Skewer or Kiba. Struggling a little bit to land some of those on the ganks, but is continuing to cause some trouble. This inhibitor tower won't quite fall, just about alive. The counter-strike keeps it there. Observers, if we could, can we check in on the HP of that tower? 60 hit points, very low indeed, of course. Inhibitor turrets do regen slowly over time, but that is still very takeable if Astralis can ever get a wave in there.
And this time I'm not going to bait our observers. I would love to look at the gold because I want to see how Kevo, he's 2,000 gold ahead. He got an entire tower with tower plated. He got the second tower, another 600 gold to his name as well. This Jinx is super accelerated, whilst if you look on the tops of the map, it is Carlson having the majority of the gold, 2,000 gold ahead of these Jax. At this point, it is a battle of who can carry more for its team. Is it Kevo on this Jinx, or is it Carlson onto this Gwen? And thank you so much for bringing up both the top laners right here, because it has been the same case for both these games. Carlson getting ahead in the early game, not being able to deliver. Let's see if he can do it in this one. Very close, kill share. Mostly going again, quarter of his team's kills go to the side of Jaxplank, but you see way less deaths onto Carlson, playing mostly for the team fights, not for the side lane brawls. And the goal percentage right there.
Never mind, we've turned enough talking about that as there's a turnaround starting to come through, but a keeper's verdict keeps some people alive, but not for long. Nash is nashed. He is dead to rights as Kevo now might be the target of a gank. Needlework coming through. Kevo gets snipped down to size, and Ignite will be cleansed, but over the wall! Kiba comes in a death from below, ensures the death of Jinx.
Who got the kill? Who got the gold right there? Where did the chip go? I don't know if our observers saw. I don't know if our observers saw who the chip of gold went to, but it'd be really hilarious if Carlson did all this and somebody else cast in from the Pike ult. But yet again, we said who can carry harder? Is it going to be Carlson's Gwen or Kevo's Jinx? Well, on a 1v1, I don't think it's a question. But again, you lose Astralis, you'll find them in the top lane yet again. Nash gets caught very squishy onto that Rakan, but Kiba is very crucially the one that picks up the kill right there on this one. Carlson finds Kevo extremely overextended in the mid lane. Kiba, he was hiding, gets the execute with the ult.
That's a 10 points there for the dive. Beautiful stuff there, as highlighted by our observers who are looking to earn some cinematic trophies here. Senkux has had to self-ult though, and Carlson's coming up, but it might just be too little too late. Has got a second invulnerability. Flashing away, but Jack leap strikes. Secures the kill anyway. It's a 1-for-1 right now, but shuffled back is Carlson. The tower is a long, long way away now, and there ain't no structure keeping you alive here. No Ignite, no hope. But this is still a Gwen. We know what she can do from ahead, but the soldiers are sent forwards and Vladdy secures it. Kiba is here, but there is no death from below quite yet available, and Riddle come up ahead in this trade. Both Solons for Astralis fall.
That is a 2-for-1, but what does Riddle get through this on the map? Kiba right there is going to manage to get out, but look at the bottom of the map. Taxa has secured yet another Dragon 2 for the name. I want to remind everyone that the fact that Riddle got one more Dragon in the previous game gave them these 5 minutes. Those 5 minutes, do you know initially what secured them? Infinity Edge on Yone and Death Cap on Kevo's Seraphim.
That's a pretty big item.
That one dragon that they got in the on the map gave them these huge power spikes that helped them turn the game around again. If we see this, Jaxpunk versus Senkax this time, and look at the counter-strike. He pops it right before the claw starts disappearing, which means that Senkax is not allowed to jump to his claw. He buys a bunch of time, obviously, with the ultimate and the zones for Carlson to get in, but Jaxpunk has a lot of mobility, manages to jump back up, and this whole meantime, Riddle had also been roaming towards the tops of the map. Kiba was way too late. Carlson almost survives right there.
Believe that. I mean, at least it's a Zonya's, not just a straight stop. Senkax about to have it happen again. Mid-game for this, Lissandra has not been that clean, but here come the rest of Astralis. This time they are looking to punish Jax.
Baron.
It's a 1v4, there's no way that can happen. Baron is happening. Can Astralis get over here quick enough? The last time they went bot side, Jax blank called too many members, and they've got to try and turn this one around now.
There is TP, there's 3 members running up with Sivir ultimate in the river.
It's done. They've got the Baron. Senkax will get in, but he's knocked away with the Keeper's verdict. And the verdict is Riddle with a big map play. Nash can get over the wall. Kevo is running away fast as he can. Over comes Keeper trying to turn this around. Nash might be the sacrificial bird. He is taken down. His wings plucked.
Oh, they want more.
Trying to trade over the wall. Flash, because he doesn't have enough available. Kevo cannot trade this one out. They get 2, but 2 members still have Baron. Stefan still going to not quite get it, but Keeper with the bone secure. Trying to make this one happen. Will not quite secure the kill nonetheless. And Riddle get Baron in trade for their top laner, but at least Astralis pick up a few things on the map to boot.
Okay, so 3 members die for Riddle, 2 only Baron buffs remaining for themselves, and again, 1 kill onto Jaxplank, and Riddle goes straight to Baron again. Jaxplank, he was like a magnet to 4 members of Riddle down the bottom of the map when this purple worm is up for grabs and you have a Jinx. You need to respect how fast this Baron goes down, but Astralis, at this, they were really quick on the trigger. They punished 3 members that would have the Baron buff, and only 2 remain on the side of Riddle. Also getting the flash from Vladdy, very important, because this flash shuffles from Azir can cause a lot of problems in the backline for Astralis. Mind you, they picked up 3 kills for the side of Astralis during the Baron, and that mid lane tower, which is very crucial if you need that river control for the next dragons to spawn.
It allows them to stay in the game that little bit longer. Baron will last till just before this Cloud Drake spawns. It's not at soul point yet, so they could still give that away. There's no Baron for Astralis to take either. And you know what this gives Riddle? More time to scale. We know what they do when they are given opportunities on Azir, on Jax, on Jinx to get ahead, or at least get even.
I don't know what you're saying. I'm seeing 4 members of Astralis top lane again.
The gang squad from Astralis has been continual thing.
Observers at this point, we might as well cut them up. We do not need the 2 bottom quadrants.
Like, they're just, you know, they're basically just filming a new Oceans movie every time. It's Oceans 4, as starring the Astralis members. And poor Chrisberg is like, well, guys, what am I supposed to do? I'm just, like, left by myself in some other part of the map.
Talking about being left by himself, I think he's done pretty well. He was trying to not get dived. He didn't get dived, actually. He fended really well for himself. Right now, he's managed to accumulate 2.5 items. Let's just say Jinx that's been spoon-fed so many turret platings, and the fight for bot river control continues. As we mentioned, that mid lane tower was so pivotal for Astralis to be able to play aggressive in this river. Riddle, though, are hiding in this bush, but there's only 2 members, which means if Astralis walk in as a 4-man unit, it'd be really easy to shut down their vision.
Minute until Dragon. Astralis have control of the river, and I do want to point this out. Critically, Carlson just completed his death cap this time around. It's not on a Seraphine on the other team. This Gwen got ahead of the Jax early with a little bit of assistance, is now in a terrifying position in this game to potentially run over a coming team fight.
I'm seeing Carlson sort of walk down towards the river. I'd like to see him stay top lane actually and try to play the 1v1 versus Jaxplank. He's got 3 items, as you mentioned. He's got the Death Cap as well. He's got Ignite on him as well as Teleport. So you get rid of Jax, you TP back into the fight. I'd like to see him perma-shoving in that wave to try and keep Jaxplank busy and then try to potentially TP on a flank wall that would be set up by Astralis. As you can see right here, Astralis are trying to clean up the map. They have set up a ward for a potential flank as well for Carlsen, who has stayed top. Jaxplank is also going to be top. He set up a bunch of vision in case 4 people want to come at him again.
Well, Stefan is going to try and force away from the river, of course, with the Umbral Glaive on this pike. So many of the wards disappeared and replaced by zombie versions of itself. That dragon just disappears, and now Riddle maybe looking to see whether someone takes an inopportune path towards the mid lane. It's not going to happen. And Boneskill goes wide as well. Riddle shoving in the mid lane and just buying time, buying space, looking to try and play for late as they did last game.
Also worth mentioning, the reason why these 2 teams don't necessarily want to fight the match.
Forced for the shuffle, but Senkuk's flashes away. Stays alive for this time, but they're going to find Stefan going in, but there's a cleanse available. Trying to get the kill, but they can't quite secure it. Nash is in the backside, but a Cyclone means it's a complete disaster. 1-for-1 right now, but there's nowhere for Vladdy to go. Kevo has a flash, gets over the wall, the Ignite is there, and all the while Jaxplank is not. 2 for 1, and Kevo's just got nowhere to go.
Oh, Kevo stopped right there to try and hit that ward. Teleport from Senkuk's coming in, and there's 2 members with really low HP bars.
Yeah, nothing to be done. A 3rd member dies, but there's no Dragon, there's no Baron, so at least it's only members dying for Riddle in their defense for now.
Very crucially, there were a bunch of summoner spells that were burned. Kiba's flash, look at Senkuk's flash. Very importantly, his teleport was burned for that 1 kill. So you can no longer be on a side lane when something like a Baron or a Dragon starts, and you cannot join. Talking about joining 1 minute until Baron spawns back up on the map, and we saw how fast Riddle can take this particular one. Reminder, Jaxplank wants the fight. Look at Carlsen's ultimate. It's not up. Ganking up on him.
Teleport advantage trying to be leveraged here. Vladdy comes over, shifts forward with his soldiers. The counter-strike stuns Carlsen, a few empowered autos, and the Grandmaster might secure the kill for Jaxplank, but it was close. And on the other side of the map, Stefan dies to a bit of a play from Chrisberg.
Riddle need to run, because there's 4 members of Astralis. Guess where? Top lane, and Vladdy did not back this time. He's going to be faced.
Giving himself up, he's got the shuffle, but he's going to get put in a frozen tomb, and it's 6 foot deep and no way out for this one. No necromancy available, he just dies.
Come on, guys, you're Greek. Say it in Greek. Back, my dude, back. They're coming for us. Vladdy stayed, pushed another wave, and got punished for his greediness right there.
6 seconds on Baron, and your mid laner is dead for 30 seconds with no teleport.
Very importantly, your jungler is as well, no smite, and you also have severe Wukong. They can take down this Baron so quickly.
Infinity Edge complete for Chrisberg this time around, and it feels like Astralis are managing to play a little bit more of a stable mid-game this time around, not giving as many angles for Riddle to find their way back in, and they will secure this Baron for themselves and begin to extend this gold lead beyond the 3,000 or so it's been stuck at for a little while.
Much more stable game now coming in from Astralis. They're using the strengths, they're using Carlsen to soak up the pressure himself. While top lane was going on, Stefan walks into the river, does not belong to him, has no teammates around, only Rakan. And Chrisberg is going to completely dispatch of Stefan together with his support and jungle duo. But then they will roam towards the top side of the map. You lose Astralis, that's where you find them. Jaxplank just about manages to back, but it's not the same case for Vladdy, who's going to get taken down. And meanwhile, while all these members were down from the sort of Riddle, while all these picks worked for Astralis, they managed to sneak in a Baron for themselves as well.
3rd item complete for Jaxplank, but you nearly avoid staff on Carlsen, who's becoming an increasingly big menace. You've got 3 items on Senkuk's, 3.5 on Chrisberg, and they are now with the Baron buff able to shove in a lot more freely. That time for scaling may well be over for Riddle.
So Kevo,
yes,
3.5 items, same as Chrisberg right now, does have the stopwatch. Riddle need to stop playing for side lane at this point, and they need to start playing their front to back. Create room for Kevo to put down his auto attacks, because so far he's been completely deprived from just putting down auto attacks in a team fight, because there's no team fights. It's been all about who gets to kill the top laner first from both teams, and then somebody gets caught in the transition. So that Jinx has never really truly come online in any of these team fights, because there hasn't been many team fights for this Jinx. to actually play the freaking game. And especially since most of your gold went into this Jinx in the early game, use her as your tool to success.
Stefan as well on this Poppy, having a bit of a rough time, not really had a huge impact on this pick despite how priority it is. The siege continues in mid lane, the cannon keeps on firing its way forwards, the soldiers are commanded to shift towards an attack, and Kiba chunked pretty low, but of course this is a Pike, and when he gets out of vision can heal up a lot of that missing HP. Carlson gets a wave shoved into the inhibitor turret, but none of the inhibitors themselves or their defending turrets will fall as yet.
15 seconds though for the next dragon, and it's going to be Soul for Astralis. And yeah, okay, we talk about how it is not the most important dragon, but it still gives you Soul, it still makes you move faster, and Kiba would be having an absolute field day with all that extra movement speed coming in from the dragon.
We've already seen what Carlson can do with a little movement to himself. He's got no flash, so all that additional movement with the needlework moving, dangerous enough. We'll see how it works shortly, because he has now got the soldier. His name is Senkux. He is into the mid lane, trying to control that wave, and Riddle just had to give it up. No way to contest in any reasonable way.
And this has been the only game out of the two where Astralis keep punishing Jaxplank. They put him behind on his Jax, and they have not yet allowed him to get back into the game. It was a 2,000 gold lead for Carlson when he left lane. It's a 3,000 gold lead for Carlson still. He keeps updating and developing on his gold leads right here, and this Gwen is actually doing a bunch of work, creating all that space for Crispec to put down the damage together with Senkux. And so far, Riddle seem a little bit lost. They haven't played a single front-to-back teamfight with this Azir.
Not had so many options. That's partly because Astralis have just been on tour. They've been going around to pretty much every lane they can, trying to blow up whoever happens to be extended in the side lane.
I'd just like to say, and I know it's a joke, but you see that Jaxplank has not gone top lane ever again. He's like, I've had enough.
Touching that.
He's like, it's now bot lane. Surely they won't come down here, right? Well, look on your mini-maps, because there's 4 members of Astralis bundling up yet again
Level 18,
Jaxplank.
he's going to try and play as one best he can, but there's just not enough healing. There goes the Maw of Malmortius, and Jaxplank shut down in a 1v1. Everyone else from Astralis just comes to watch him do it.
Come on, man. That was a 1v1. The 3 other members put so much mental pressure on Jaxplank. You can't say it was a 1. Okay, it was a 1v1. Good stuff from Carlson.
I saw what it said on the scoreboard.
Good stuff right there for Carlson on the solo bolo. Again, they've shut down the Jax, and they've not allowed him to come back into this game. Now they can use the pressure of having the numbers advantage on the map. Ash goes in and goes out.
It's just the Shirelia's pop, all the while Carlson just deletes this tower. So much AP to this Gwen. They need so much scissors, like complete wrecking balls, destroying structures left, right, and center. Inhibitor number 1 falls in the bot lane.
And let's see what objectives are coming up as well. 1 minute and 20 seconds until the next Baron. And teams need to start setting up right now. Riddle, what they need to do is use the time that they have, where Astralis is back in, where Astralis is resetting, get some vision, get some control over on your red side jungle, because you're going to need this. This is where you're going to be walking in, most likely blind, if you don't set up vision right now to try and check for this Baron in 1 minute. It is so pivotal to try and get numbers advantage on the map for Riddle, because right now they're about 7,000 gold in deficit. So they need to use the body's advantage to try and gain some control over their own territory.
This Jinx really hasn't seen a lot of action recently. It's been Astralis, as you said, turning away towards side lanes and making things incredibly difficult. Look, this Carlson's got a stopwatch +4 items. He's a nightmare. You've got a GA now on Taxa. Death Cap just completed for Senkux. The Bloodthirster in for Crispberg. Riddle in a very difficult position, especially if they can't stand the burst that Astralis can bring onto a single target.
Most importantly, that mid lane wave. It's going to be so important for both teams. They want to enter the river. Keep on the side. They're deep in flank.
They're going to throw down the Flame Chompers, though. That could be a very ill-opportune moment. Senkux, that teleport immediately punished Stefan, though, so very low. Emperor survived, forced to tax it down. Stefan just about alive, but he's dead. The jungler is gone. Now, Jaxplank is on the side, looking to maybe find an angle in, but can't quite find it. All the while, they're still hopping for Carlson. A real threat. So much damage, a double for Crispberg. 2 back for Carlson, and the game's over, even if Senkux teleport was swiftly punished. Jaxplank has got nothing. He's trying his very best. Gets a shut down, but he can't keep escaping. Finally taken out as a flash from contacts and gets him. And Riddle fall, Astralis will even up the series.
Very well done right there from Astralis. Their front-to-back team fighting was stellar, and even though they instantly lost Segax before he was even able to press any other button other than his teleport, Carlsen's Gwen is online and he took control of the game.
Another early game goes their way, but this time in the mid-game, the side lanes were punished. Astralis learned, Astralis even up the series, and Astralis looking pretty scary, honestly, in this game.
I think it was much easier, right? Because when you put money into a Gragas, there's only so much carrying he's going to do in the early to mid game. Later on stages, that Gragas, if he goes AP, yes, he can pop your carries, but when you have shielding and healing, it's going to be really difficult to try and target them. Right now on the Gwen, it's one of the most S-tier picks. We've seen it B1'd a bunch of times. They put resources again into Carlsen. He left lane with 2k. He never let go. Jaxplank could never catch up. And I think that was the pivotal part on what happened between game 1 and game 2. I love the fact that Des talked about it as well. Astralis going in with the same strat, but now they managed to fix what was lacking in the mid game.
Another game where they get the early leads, but this time the mid game so much more stable. I'm sure Merbs is pleased to hear his advice was followed. And over to the desk we go.
Good question. Are you pleased that they followed your advice, Merbs? Putting you on the spot.
Yeah.
There you go. That's the reply we wanted right now. Now Astralis takes the first game out of the series versus Riddle, tying it up. I know you're really smiley right now, but this is really interesting to dive into because if I may, I think I saw a replay from first game to second game without the drop the ball. Do you guys agree?
Yeah, and I think it's not only them dropping the ball, but it's also the fact that they drafted better. They drafted the more late game-oriented comp. You saw last time around, Carlsen was fine in the early game, but the Gragas kind of fell off, couldn't match Jax playing in the side lane. But then you took the Gwen, and he was able to match Jax playing in the side lane. Jax playing wasn't allowed to have that huge pressure point due to the Gwen on Carlsen. So I think the draft was the real difference here, even if both teams played around the same strength.
I have an opinion. I do believe you agree with me on this one. So far, I believe on this matchup, on this series, Kiba is the MVP by far.
Yeah, I think Kiba is just the main difference here. I think he's been doing phenomenal. I think he's been at every play first. He's always there. They have to respect him in some way, and it's not working.
There's a lot of rotation coming in from... Look at that dive. Oh, that was a beautiful animation, though. That was beautiful.
Yeah, and this is where previously being a jungler comes into effect, right? He's a previous jungle player who played jungle competitive in what was back then the UKLC, and now switching over to the support role. He knows exactly when the opportunity is there. He knows exactly when to look for the roam, what was previously a gank when he played in the jungle. So he's able to team up so well with Tex because they both see the windows, they both see the chances of making the play, and that's why he's always first.
If you look into the top lane, we do believe throughout the rest of the series, Jaxplank will not be allowed to breathe, so he needs to buy a bottle of air if he wants to be on the top side. But I don't think they use as much as they used on the first game because Carlsen is now playing a different sort of champion.
Yeah, Carlsen on the Gwen. It's one of the champions we've seen him play this bit actually, but more importantly, it goes back to the style of play that Carlsen liked to do before he joined Astralis back in 2020 when he played in the Danish second division. He liked to be a player to play these carry champions, to do stuff himself and not just be a facilitator. And that's what we saw. He was able to match his opponent in the laning phase. He was able to match him in the side lanes, and he was also able to do a lot of damage in the early game, which his team really lacked in that first game defeat.
The only way for Riddle to come back into this game was trying to get Astralis de-coordinated or distracted with something. That's why they went for the Baron as soon as they saw a play. You were the one highlighting, okay, they're going for the Baron as they're trying to get a kill on the bot side. Got us through this one, Merbs.
I think it was a really good call for them to actually go for the Baron, but they're splitting up here and it's not working out. They should leave as a group or something, but they're just too indecisive and try to get everyone out rather than just giving up Rakan there and just continue. So yeah, more ties.
Taking away the late game from the game one, what do you believe is the issue right now for Riddle, Merbs, that they need to fix before game 3?
I don't feel like they know how to prevent Astralis from doing what they want. And I think Astralis has just been so good at opening up for Kiba to actually roam the map. And I think Nash needs to match that and be the first one to be on the map, on the top side.
I'll continue with the question for you, because if I make this one to Duckling, I know the answer. But do you believe Astralis are playing a game that no one was expecting of them today?
Yeah, I think they changed their approach completely from how they played in the regular split. I think it's a very good adaptation to play into the enemy's strength and actually executing on it properly.
And the execution on the final fight of the game was almost perfect for Astralis. What to you is the most prominent strength of Astralis right now on today's match?
I think what Riddle did so well in the first game was force Astralis to commit completely to the early game. They banned away some of these junglers that had more presence in the late game as well, like the Wukong. So by forcing Astralis to play the full-on early game comp, it allowed them to be on a timer. But when they are playing a comp that can do stuff in the early game, but also do stuff in the late game, they are not on a timer. So they want to put them back on the timer because Riddle are good enough to scale out the game and say, if we hit the 30-minute mark, we are going to win the game. But as long as Astralis get enough scaling, that won't happen.
Okay, as we move on to the third game,